And welcome to a brand new life, to a brand new day, all the way from the wastelands of California. My name is Michael Decon, bringing you the truth, no matter how bad it hurts. Joining me in a moment, William F. Mann is the guest this evening. He is an officer of the Knights Templar, of Canada's Grand Executive Committee, a member of its Grand Council, and serves as the Sovereign Great Priory's Grand Archivist. He is the author of The Last Refuge of the Knights Templar and The Ultimate Secret of the Pike Letters. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on this very special evening yet again. For those in the West Coast, it's a bit of a late afternoon delight, and those in the East Coast, it's already evening for you. Regardless, I'm glad you are here with me. I hope all of you are feeling well. Now, without further ado, let's get down to brass tacks and bring in William F. Mann and my co-host, Mr. Mike Hideous. Gentlemen, are you alive out there?
I'm here, Michael. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And Mike, are you also okay out there?
Yes, sir, I'm here. Whether I'm okay, that's left to be decided.
Debatable.
Debatable is also a word.
Right on, brother. Thank you so much for, thank you to both of you for being here with me this evening. I'm glad both of you are here in this time. It almost seems like the end times. Am I right, boys?
Brother.
Well, hopefully, reason and logic will overcome sort of panic and hysteria, and hopefully we'll be able to overcome this. Only time will tell.
Only time will tell, no doubt. And William, my goodness, I'm so glad you're here and spending some time with both myself and Mike Hideous and the listeners out there. Everyone is quite excited that you are here, my friend.
No problem. My pleasure. I don't give too many radio interviews. You can probably appreciate in my position that I just have to be very careful. There's a lot of people that would like to be associated with the Supreme Grand Master or take a few shots at the Supreme Grand Master.
No doubt,
So
my friend.
I hope you're not going to try to pigeonhole me tonight.
No.
We don't do that here.
Problem.
You're in good hands.
I'm even more excited now that you've said that.
Yes. Now you wrote a number of incredible books, my friend, throughout the years.
Yes, this is number 5.
This is number 5. The book, The Last Refuge of the Knights Templar, The Ultimate Secret of the Pike Letter. And I could not help but also read the acknowledgement section of your book. And most people don't even read that part. But there was something in there that you wrote that really caught my attention. And you wrote, as one grows older, one comes to realize that no single individual has ever lived long enough to have figured out the true meaning of life. Now, to me, William, that is even harder to figure out in these times.
It is. To simplify things. As you grow up, you always think that you know better than your parents. But as you get of the age of where you're, I have 2 boys that are adult men now, and you start to realize that, yeah, maybe some of the things that you've learned and finally understood over a lifetime of learning, actually come back to serve you well when dealing with everyday situations and people.
No doubt. And as we continue forward here, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, my friend?
Well, interesting enough, I just retired. The
Nice.
reason I retired is last August I was installed as Supreme Grand Master in the Knights Templar Canada. What that is thank you very much. And I thought maybe that I could continue working at the time, but I realize now it's a full-time job. It's a 2-year term, and what it does is essentially I'm the national leader or figurehead of the Sovereign Great Priory of Canada, which is the highest level of Christian masonry, um, belonging both to the Scottish Rite Masons and the York Rite Masons, both sides, the English and the Scottish. So it is very, I'm very honored and privileged to have been given the position. And in part, it was because of the books that I wrote and the interest that I've had in Knights Templar history throughout my life. But it's also in part because actually 65 years ago to the day that I was installed, my great uncle was Supreme Grand Master Knights Templar of Canada also. And it was my great uncle who was like my surrogate grandfather, because my grandfather died before I was born. He was the one that instilled in me a lifetime of query and wondering about the mysteries and the spiritual relationships among us all out there in the world. So, as I say, I've joined a number of orders and degrees, Masonic order and degrees, because of my family legacy, but because of my interest in spirituality and understanding knowledge at a higher level.
So basically, you're saying that your family is connected, possibly to the holy bloodline that's talked about in the Da Vinci Code. Is that correct?
I'll say yes. I'll say yes, but whenever somebody asks me that, I always say, don't get hung up on that. One of the first things you learn in doing all this research is always look beyond. Is the ultimate secret the Holy Family of Jesus and Mary Magdalene? Yes, but that's really not what the ultimate knowledge that the Knights Templar discovered 1,000 years ago in Jerusalem during the First Crusades.
Interesting. Mike, I know you have something to say. Go in there. Get in there,
I
Mike.
am dying, Michael.
Go
I'm
ahead.
just dying as these questions. Grandmaster William, let me just say it is a real honor for me to sit here and be able to talk to you and ask you these questions. Um, I have been reading books about the Templars for the last 13 years, and I'm fascinated by it. You just mentioned you just mentioned something that was part of a question that I had. 1,000 years ago, when the uh, correct me if I'm wrong, but when the alleged a crusade attack on Jerusalem, uh, when that took place, and allegedly the Templars had found something that was of great importance, but to this day no one knows exactly what it was. Do you subscribe to that theory, and what's your belief on that?
Oh, absolutely. And actually, I can't go into it now, but I know that I have proof. There is proof that what they discovered was phenomenal,
Oh,
and and that's what I allude to in my new book, the Last Refuge of the Knights Templar. Now, the question is, a lot of people ask me, well, can you tell me what the treasure is? And I always say to people, I said, what do you think the treasure is? I said, the treasure is whatever you think it is. It could be knowledge,
ask me,
understand,
ask me.
understanding wisdom. It could be genealogical records of the House of David. It could be bones, relics associated with Jesus and the Holy Family. It could be ancient records from before the Great Flood. It could be all of those things.
Yeah, I always felt, I mean, this is just me, but I always felt it had something to do with Mary Magdalene and having found her remains, and perhaps the documents that may have claimed that Jesus was indeed. Uh,
Did we lose Mike?
Did we lose Mike? Maybe he got struck down by lightning.
I think he might have been struck down there.
Well, let me answer his question with a question. What you have to do is you have to ask yourself, what is it that the Knights Templar possessed, which allowed them to essentially blackmail the Vatican into identifying them as the ultimate holy army of the papacy, and what is it that would allow them to establish an order that answered only to the Pope himself, and that would be tax free, that essentially it would be an autonomous, a sovereign state. without a country, but they were an order unto themselves. What is it that they possess that would cause the Vatican to almost fall on their knees?
Right. Right.
And so what is it that caused the Vatican through the Jesuits to pursue this secret that the Knights Templar possessed for 1,000 years?
Sorry,
Mike,
guys.
I see Mike is back.
Yep, he's
Did
back.
you fall off
Yeah.
your chair, Mike?
I'm sorry, guys. You know what? I have to take care of this problem at some point. My computer just went kaplooey. My apologies. Can you all
No
hear me
problem.
all right?
We hear you loud and clear.
Yep.
Okay, just making sure. So again, I apologize. I dropped out here.
Did you hear that the last answer, Mike?
I'm afraid I didn't, Grandmaster, because I dropped out as I was asking you, or we were discussing the answer to the statement.
Well, I posed the question to you. What do you think that the Knights Templar discovered that allowed them to essentially maintain control over the papacy and the Vatican?
In my opinion, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And that for 1,000 years, still to this day, has caused the Vatican, through the Jesuits, to search for that secret and the lost Templar treasure.
In my personal opinion, I always felt it had something to do with the fact that Jesus was not divine, but a man who had a relation with a woman and created a family, because
Right.
it was the church that said that Jesus was divine and therefore did not need the flesh of anyone, of a woman particularly. Therefore, he had sired a child with Mary Magdalene, and that was the secret, in my opinion. So maybe they found bones, maybe they found records associating that information to them. That's my look on it.
Maybe they found all of that.
Right.
Maybe they did.
Yeah, it's possible. Very possible.
Maybe,
Fascinating.
but as I say once again, always look beyond the obvious. Whenever you think that you've uncovered or reasoned the final secret, always look beyond. Maybe that's a cover-up. Maybe that's just a deflection. The Knights Templar were famous for those types of things.
By the way,
Now,
William, just to
go
cut
ahead.
in,
I'm sorry,
just to
Michael,
cut
go
in
ahead.
really quickly here, why is it that you don't do many interviews, sir?
Well, I always find that, and if you read my book on Albert Pike specifically, Albert Pike is a fascinating character in life, but he's a real enigma. He's almost treated like a demigod by certain Scottish Rite Masons. He had a phenomenal intellect, and he alone really redeveloped the 32 degrees of the Scottish Rite of the Southern jurisdiction in the U.S. But he was also a Confederate general. It's said that he developed the basic ritual based on Scottish Rite rituals for the Ku Klux Klan, and he was a Knight of the Golden Circle. So you can see that there are certain fringe elements out there that like to associate themselves with Knights Templar specifically, but also Freemasonry and the purported secrets that we carry.
Was he a Satanist?
No, not at all.
That's what some people consider him to be one. I'm not quite sure why.
Sure, and a lot of people consider Masons to be men who go and
that too,
and ride goats.
Right? Yes, because of the Baphomet.
Exactly, but you know what? All of that is nonsense. Masons that I know, hopefully including myself, are the finest gentlemen that you would ever meet.
Well, the ones
May I ask a question?
Go
Michael?
ahead, Mike. Get in there.
Okay, so Grandmaster, a two-part question to you, if you don't mind. And
sure.
So now we just talked about the issue of Baphomet. Now, 1,000 years ago, the church accused the Templars of worshiping not only Baphomet, but also allegedly the head of John the Baptist. Now, in your opinion, honestly, I think that the church had framed the Templars with the accusation that Baphomet was being worshipped by the Templars. Number one. Number two, Go
And
ahead. I'm sorry.
let me answer that. Absolutely. You know, the stories are utter nonsense, and it's just medieval poppycock developed to frame the Templars. There's no reason or logic. There's no basis of Baphomet associated with the Masons, with the Knights Templar, with anybody else. So get that out of your head right about now.
Gotcha, sir. So, in second part of the question being with John the Baptist, aside from the whole head thing, again, another, in my opinion, another accusation by the church, but John the Baptist, I've read that allegedly it was John the Baptist who was supposed to be the Messiah and not Jesus. What is your thoughts on that?
There's a lot of conspiracy questions out there. John the Baptist was obviously the one who anointed Jesus. Um, Both John the Baptist and Jesus are considered to be divine. In my mind, at least, if they're considered to be prophets and great men, human beings, I don't think it lessens in any way the message that they carry and have carried for 2,000 years. Again, you have to approach it with logic and reason.
And that being said, I agree with you 100% by approaching such answers and clues and stuff like that with logic. But at the same time, one has to ask, where does the logic come in? How can you really get an answer when stuff like this was so long ago, and in most cases, either the documents were lost or kept extremely private.
Right.
Well, again, documents. Yes, they've been kept private, but I've been privy to a number of documents. As you piece them together, you're able to. You have to think for yourself. You have to reason, um, and logically understand the knowledge that you're given. And Freemasonry is all about that, rising to a higher degree of understanding, a higher degree of wisdom. But you're still a man. You're not an alien. You're not a devil. Yeah, human spirit can do tremendous things. Just witness what's happening out there right now.
Right. On a side note, really quickly here, Mike, I'm going to have to send you a copy of his book, by the way, The Last Refuge of the Knights Templar. It is extremely fascinating, and we could do way more than an hour just on this book alone. It's insane, the information.
I would love it.
It's really damn good, in my opinion.
Well, one of the reason I write these books is it's funny. After my mother died, trying to just deal with the emotion, but also trying to deal with all the information I had in my head. I needed to somehow download that information and to call some of the information out of my. So I've been writing books ever since, and I find it a great way to sort out and defile your thoughts, but also, as you mentioned, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. It allows me to really apply all my understanding in various levels. And Michael, you may have understood the book on about 2 different levels. I've written it on about 10 different levels.
Right.
So you may want to go back and read it about 10 times.
I might have, yeah. This is one of those.
Gain some understanding.
There's a page turner, no doubt.
And, that's good.
And you said you were a 32-degree Scottish Rite Mason, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And how on earth did you? I mean, you said your grandfather, but what exactly was the catalyst for you that made you just go all in, my friend?
Well, the catalyst was I always knew that I was always fascinated about Freemasonry for a number of reasons. But you have to understand, my 2 English great uncles would sit me on the couch when I was 4 and 5. Some of the earliest memories I ever have, and they were doing pantomime. They were doing ritual. What I didn't understand is, you have to appreciate everything in Freemasonry is done by memory. They were actually practicing their ritual in front of me, and so something of that mystery has been instilled in me ever since I can remember.
It's pretty
And
awesome.
and then as I got older, I can remember when I was 8, when I was 12, they would always give me puzzles, more complicated puzzles as I grew older in order to solve. So in many ways, I felt I don't know if they recognized something in me or they just instilled something in me, but in many ways, I can see now that I was sort of subconsciously being trained for the position I have now.
Very
Grandmaster, if I may, what is your outlook on religion, particularly in the Christian sense? Do you follow Christianity, Catholicism, or anything like that, or do you subscribe to a different religious theory? Considering that you're with the Knights Templar.
No, I was baptized in Christian as a Catholic. My mom was Roman Catholic. My dad was high Anglican. I consider myself a Christian. I go to church. The organization I belong to is known as the Christian Masonic Arm. You have to be Christian in order to join, whereas there are other degrees, other orders in Masonry where you just have to believe in a supreme being or God to join. But what people don't realize, even within the order itself, is that there's a great concentration put on the Christian mysteries, the metaphorical or transfiguration of Christ from the human to the divine, whether that's a metaphor or whether that was actually real. But I dabble in. I'm also a ninth degree Rosicrucian, and because on my mother's side, my mother is a full-blooded Algonquin Indian.
Oh, that's right.
I belong to what is known as the Grand Medicine Society, and interesting enough, the rituals that I've gone through for the Medellin are mirror images of the Knights Templar images. So what it is allowing you to, through your mind and body, to reflect that spirituality in order to achieve a higher level of understanding.
Interesting. Michael, did you want to say something?
That's about 25 years of work put within about 2 minutes.
That's right.
Hopefully you understand that a little.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
And we were just talking about religion and all of that just now. And in the Pike letters, the Pike letters, rather, he says, I'm forgetting exactly who he said this to, but do you also believe the soul is in the heart?
No. Actually, that's an interesting point that I make out in the book. The soul is in the mind, because really, from let's say an historical religious perspective, from a Roman Catholic perspective, the soul is seen as being in the heart. But the Knights Templar, like the Christian monastics before the Council of Nicaea, they believed that you could reason God's existence, and therefore the soul is in the mind.
Can I ask another question, Michael?
Jump in there. I was going to say that would make sense to me, since I've had many outer body experiences and always felt.
Yes.
Yes, you know where I'm going with this. Mike, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. You can finish that, Michael, if you
good.
Wanted to.
No,
All right.
He knows where I'm going.
Real quick, Grandmaster. Have you ever read a book called Holy Blood, Holy Grail?
Sure.
Okay.
I read that probably about 25 years ago.
Okay.
And go back to it on a regular basis. Yes.
It's a fascinating book, and the reason I bring it up is because in the book it mentions the theory of the possibility that Jesus was not indeed crucified and may have escaped to Gaul with Magdalene, if indeed he was alive. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are you have to look beyond the Holy Blood and the Holy Grail, Mike.
Okay.
Look beyond that. Is that Is that a theory? Is that a story? Is it reality? It is whatever you want to make of it. But as I tell people, take 10% of that story and add it to all the other conspiracy stories, and you may get the real story.
Okay.
Now, how does your book relate to the Da Vinci Code?
Well, interesting enough, the Da Vinci Code I call sort of Knight Templar light. Dan Brown, amazingly, one of my first books I wrote all about the background to the Da Vinci Code prior to 2000. And Dan Brown, when he came out with his book, very simply, very effectively, he took a lot of these concepts, a lot of these conspiracy theories, a lot of the background to the Knights Templar, and blended it into actually an amazing story. But once again, you have to take 10% of all that you see in the Da Vinci Code and consider it to be true. Dan Brown, this whole question in terms of Jesus and the Holy Family and Mary Magdalene, he just hit upon a sort of hidden psyche within the sort of collective psyche of North America and the world. And he raised the question. But what's interesting now is I thought that would be earth-shattering to the church. But the church, whenever theories of this nature come out, very effectively bring certain experts together and squash the theories to the point that people just assume, okay, it was fictional. I'll move on with my life and accept the basic tenets that the church puts out there and teaches me. People have to think for themselves. They have to reason,
right?
What's real, what's not real.
Well, wouldn't you agree? Maybe you wouldn't agree, but don't you think that there's a possibility that what is taught and preached within religion, that it makes people question the either the authority or how true these things are? I mean, you say look beyond. So when you're in church listening to a sermon by a priest and everything is blind faith, how is it not that how can you not question things like that?
Mike, I question every minute of every day.
I love that. You're a wise man, well, William.
He is.
Yeah. Well, Mike, what you have to look at is, blind faith is a remarkable thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really amazed people, and my mom was one of those. My mom, had blind faith in the church, but the church controlled and have controlled native existence for the last 400 years here in North America. Has it been good for the indigenous communities? I would say no. I would say they almost decimated it. It was a planned genocide through the church and government to obliterate the Native Americans.
Right.
But you have to understand, what is it that the church possessed that sort of is able to develop this worldwide faith based on nothing more than a story that, if you realistically thought about it, can one ascend to heaven? Where, who? I always point out, who invented hell? The church invented hell because they had to say, if you're not good, you're going to go to hell instead of heaven, right? There has to be a balance.
Right. Wow, that's fascinating. May I ask you, is there an association between the Templars and the Priory of Sion?
What do you consider to be the Priory of Zion? Now, there's a lot of organizations out there that claim that they are the true Priory of Zion. Let me put it this way. Are there families that are direct descendants of the original Knights Templar from 1,000 years ago? Yes. And my family is one of those. Is there a true Priory of Zion inner circle of Knights Templar out there? Yes. But there's a lot of imitations all around, and people ask me why. And the point that I make is whenever the Templar treasure is ultimately discovered, there's going to be people coming out of the woodwork looking to lay claim to it. Who are the rightful owners of the Templar treasure? And really, should it be discovered? What will it do to the world religion?
Interesting.
Now I have to ask you your thoughts about the TV show Oak Island.
Oh, yes, yes. My thoughts.
Yes.
Well, you know what? It's fascinating that the show can continue for 7 years
I
every
agree.
10 minutes.
I agree, yes.
I'll claim that they discovered possibly the most fascinating or historically significant thing in the last 400 years. Let's put it this way. I'm amazed if you watch it, and I watch it all the time.
Once in a while, I'll tune in.
I'm fascinated by it, but for different reasons.
Mm.
I'm fascinated that for over 200 years, well-educated, well-rounded, very prosperous, very successful men have spent a lot of money searching for something that may not be there. And in their mind, they can't get over the reasoning that somebody would have set something up that would have kept them busy for 225 years. You have to remember that the Knights Templar were continually being pursued by the church and French royalty for that purpose because of the treasure that they possessed or were purported to possess. It's like if I went as a kid onto the school ground and said, you know, I got a secret, and spread that around, everybody would want to know what the secret was, even if I didn't have a secret. So you have to think about it. Were those works purposely done by, let's say, British Army officers in the mid 1700s to actually act as a ruse and to prevent people from looking beyond? It's if that's the case, it's done its job. It's prevented a lot of people. A lot of people being fascinated on the works, the underground works on Oak Island, and failed to look beyond to the mainland.
Now, be honest with me.
Sure.
Where is?
I'm always honest.
Tell me the truth. Where's the Templar treasure? Where is it at?
actually, if you finish my book, you'll know exactly where it is.
I haven't finished
I gotta
it.
read that book.
I haven't finished it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm just not pinpointing exactly where it is.
Oh my!
But I know exactly where it is. The question is the world ready for it to be revealed?
I'm ready. I'm ready, Grandmaster.
Yeah, you can go down the hole first, Mike.
Oh my!
But the whole thing is the world ready to accept what is to be uncovered and what is to be, and is it meant to be revealed? And is the treasure what you really think it is?
No,
those are some questions.
Right.
Those are some questions you can ponder tonight.
I already am. But one of the things that sticks out in my mind is, did the Knights Templar really possess the Holy Grail?
The Holy Grail?
And what was the Holy Grail?
What do you consider to be the Holy Grail?
Well, we see it as some sort of, as we know it as in the Bible, as a relic, as a cup of sorts, but it could mean something else, I would have to say, correct?
On 10 different levels. It can mean, it could, on the most basic of levels, it could be just knowledge. It could be knowledge that the church controlled 2,000 years ago, and they've done a good job of controlling it. It could be knowledge that just, if nothing else, it could be what was considered to be sacred geometry, knowledge that the world wasn't flat. There were ancient mariners circumnavigating the world when the church was preaching that it was flat and that you would fall off the end of the earth as you went through the Straits of Gibraltar.
Well, I'm glad you don't believe the earth is flat.
No. Or that we're alone.
Or that we're alone. Yeah, you believe in extraterrestrial life, correct?
Well, to a certain extent, yes. it's
Possible.
again from a reasonable point of view. It We have a pretty big collective ego if we think that we're the only ones, that we have the only planet that can sustain life in the universe or beyond.
Grandmaster, if I may, if I were to look up in my Templar books about the history of the Templars,
Sure.
would you be able to tell me what name you are associated with that was all the way back in the year 1000?
Sure. Hugh de Payan
Okay.
And Godfrey de Bouillon.
Oh my goodness, you're kidding.
Well, what you have to understand is that those were lesser French families of lesser nobility, right? Now,
Okay.
if you know your history, it was the families of those um, descendants of those original 9 knights, those families, that the Norman families that made their way over to New France in the 1600s, and were made lieutenant governors of certain districts or certain trading areas. And in order to develop strategic alliances with the native Indians, that they would marry into the native bloodline. So part of the notion in the book that I put forward, The Last Refuge and the Knights Templar, is that 400 years ago, or even further, there were these strategic intermarriages between those Knights Templar who came to North America and the Native Americans. And that did two things. It strengthened the bloodline, and it also in essence ensured that the Knights Templar and their parties could move inland into North America. Because I can tell you that even though the natives would have greeted the, let's call them, old world Europeans, they wouldn't have even got on shore if they didn't know the signs, seals, and tokens of the secret societies.
So now there's another great fact that you just brought up. I recently saw a program, oh, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, might even been longer, that allegedly the Templars did come to the United States, to America, oh golly, like far beyond the Vikings and far beyond the alleged Christopher Columbus discovering America. What is your take on that? Did they truly come to America after they were hunted down by the church in Europe?
Absolutely. What better place to hide?
And I agree with you. Don't get me wrong.
No, no.
What I'm trying to ask here is that they had the knowledge. Is it they had it before anyone else? How to get to a land that, I mean, did they even come here before that?
Well, maybe that was part of the knowledge that they discovered or rediscovered under the Temple Mount
Ah,
around 1100. Maybe that was the knowledge. But you know what? Ancient mariners, Phoenicians, Carthaginians, Greeks, Romans, they were all making transatlantic voyages. The Chinese were making trans-Pacific voyages. Um, it's only in the church's mind that nobody was traveling, circumnavigating the world, even in ancient times. When I say ancient times, pre-Christian times.
fascinating.
Maybe that's part of the real knowledge
Perhaps.
that was discovered.
He's toying with us, Michael. I could tell.
No, no, I'm not. I'm just.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing. It's just I'm so fascinated by this.
Well, the thing that you're going to take from this, Mike, is that you're going to think a lot about a lot of things that I said,
Oh, I certainly
and
am, no doubt.
you have to reason for yourself. You have to think about it and start logically putting things together.
What about the church in France? I correct me if I'm saying the name wrong. René's Le Chateau?
René's Le Chateau, yeah.
Okay. So allegedly the priest had found something hidden within the altar as he was doing renovations. Any comment on that particular subject?
He actually, Sonye, the priest,
Sonia, right?
that's a fascinating story unto itself. But it's a side story once again, right? It's how much truth is there associated with that story? Maybe a lot, maybe a little.
Mm.
If you look at what Sonye was doing, he was almost blackmailing the church himself.
Right.
It's like it's coming back to that old line of "I know a secret and you don't."
Right.
You would be my best friend if I told you I would reveal the secret to you one day.
Oh,
Yes.
you know it.
By the way, I just wanted to mention Albert Pike.
Yes.
He's a big man, wasn't he?
Oh, he was huge.
He was a big guy.
And part of the background to the book was that I discovered when I was the grand historian and archivist for the Sovereign Great Priory. I discovered in a whole heap of artifacts and files coming out of our Grand Chancellery in the basement after there was a flood. There was a correspondence, a 30-year correspondence between Albert Pike after the Civil War when he became Sovereign Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite in the United States, and the first Supreme Grand Master and Knights Templar of Canada, Colonel William James Bury MacLeod Moore. There couldn't be two opposite type of gentlemen. Pike was big and burly, 300 pounds, 6'2", looking like Santa Claus, and the Confederate general. And MacLeod Moore was a British colonel. He was very much the ramrod straight British soldier, a career soldier. But they shared something. And I'm not going to give the story away, but they shared possibly the location of the treasure vault.
Interesting.
And their correspondence, I realized, was written on a number of different levels. And that's what I'm suggesting in the book, is that you always have to look beyond, always look to interpret not only the letters, the storylines on so many different levels.
A code within a code.
A code within a code.
Yes, sir. You know it. And that brings me to another question here. I've been very curious your thoughts and opinions on, well, both of you gentlemen here, on several years ago, there was all sorts of uproar going on, and even still today, about removing these statues. I'm very curious what your thoughts are, and I just wanted to quickly say I don't really feel the need to remove these statues unless you're going to put them in a museum of sorts, but I think these statues still reflect upon the history of this nation, and removing that would be sort of getting rid of the history that most people should understand and come to accept. In my opinion, I could be wrong.
And I agree with you totally. There's a lesson there to leaving the Confederate statues in place. In Canada, our first Prime Minister, John A. Macdonald, who was also a Knights Templar, well, he introduced the railway into Canada. And again, if you realize your history, the railway is probably the single most damaging element to the continuing existence of Native Americans. It opened up the West. It brought in white settlers, manifest destiny, and all that. So the whole thing is yes, that's undeniable history, and you have to accept it. But to remove the statues, almost to sterilize history.
Yeah,
you don't learn from it. You have to learn from history, or you repeat it.
100%. Mike, go ahead if you have any thoughts and opinions on the removal of these statues that are all over the place, really.
Well, Michael,
Mike, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Did you have to say something, Grandmaster?
No, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Well, to respond to that, Michael, I firmly believe that they should remain, not because I'm a racist or anything like that, but simply because it is history. And if you notice, there are places on Earth, such as communist countries and even the Islamic religion, who love to tear down ancient history and claim that it's blasphemous or has no purpose, and they try to erase history. So no, I firmly believe that they should remain intact. You know, it's funny, all the holidays that we have in this country, not one of them has anything to do with celebrating the lives and or deaths of all the hundreds of thousands of men that died for the Civil War, you know, to turn this country around and make it a better place. And we have no, you know, we have no day that uh, you know, celebrates that time. Um, so I think the relics of the relics, the statues of the Civil War are very important to keep, without a doubt. It was a major history in our country, and it should remain that way.
I just want to quickly add that I am of multi-race. I'm not a racist of any kind, and I still support these statues being in place. Just
No
for the
doubt.
record, just for the record.
As I do, and unfortunately, when you sterilize history, it looks to repeat itself. I find the cabinet of Donald Trump to be very interesting in that it's quite reflective of eras gone by. You know, the South may rise yet still.
And on that,
And let's not get
yes,
into American politics because I'll talk for 2 days.
no worries. I am
You and
curious.
me both.
I am curious, however, what you think of what's going on right now in these sort of end of days sort of times that we're in with the coronavirus, COVID-19. Your thoughts, William?
Well, you know what? It's interesting. The world's overpopulated, and I can't think of the author who I read a very fascinating book that what the world population is about 7.5 billion right now,
Yes.
and he's saying that the world's population should be culled by about 1/7, and it's interesting that. It's rather prophetic that a pandemic of this nature would come along at this point in time.
Very interesting.
Go ahead, Mike.
Maybe that was part of the treasure that the Templars discovered, Mike.
Maybe.
It's like Pandora's box.
Oh, my mind. I got so many things I'm trying to think of. All these
I
answers you've given me, you're like, look beyond, look beyond. Oh, I'm looking.
Yeah. No, well, you know, you sound a little younger than me. It'll come to you.
How old do you think I am?
I'm 40.
Oh, you're a good man. Actually, I'm 53.
Oh, there you are.
So,
You're still young,
but
Mike. Don't worry.
I'm young at heart.
You're a young man.
My body's getting a little old though.
Well, you know what? It's funny. You asked me about secrets at the start about secrets for masonry.
Yes.
I always say that 45, 50 years ago, I knew more secrets in the frat house that I belonged to at university.
Wow, interesting.
And by the way, before we even went live, you said you were on a cruise.
I was.
Oh my
I
goodness.
was with my lovely wife. About 4 weeks ago, we were on a cruise of the Panama Canal. It was the first time we went to the Panama Canal, and I found it just fascinating, given my background in terms of the American engineering and the ingenuity that was taken to develop the canal, especially after the French failed. Um, what I really found fascinating was the whole concept of what that canal did over the last 120 years in terms of world economy and balance of power, allowing warships even to travel from the Atlantic to the Pacific in a very short time. It really, I think, presented a balance, and there's a lesson to be learned here. Present a balance of power um, through the Second World War up to today, but unfortunately, with the pandemic, there seems to be an imbalance of power that's happening now in the world. The world adjustment. And if you know anything about native prophecies, we're talking about going from the seventh fire into the eighth fire. Um, The seventh fire prophecy says that there will be an adjustment of the world population prior to a movement of peace into a realm of peace. So it's interesting. I think we're in for turbulent times.
Oh no.
You know, if I may, we had interviewed on Saturday. We interviewed a doctor who was speaking about the whole coronavirus, and there was something that he made that I never really got to reply to, and it was that there was a prophecy, or actually no, he said he knew a woman who had foresight, and she had said that she she anticipated this virus coming to some extent. However, scientifically speaking, I also have seen these documentaries about doctors who study pandemics and outbreaks, viruses, Ebola, you name it, and the logic there is simply that, and what they said was that that it's not a matter of if a virus comes and uh, affects humanity greatly. It's a matter of when, because eventually a virus will mutate to a point where even modern science will have an extreme problem trying to work out an antidote to eliminate it. So, I mean, I'm a science man, Grandmaster, and I I'm very skeptical, and I believe very much in science. If you prove it to me and it makes sense, I believe it. So there's no doubt in my mind that at some point, and this may be it, this may not be it, I don't know, but I do know that at some point there is going to be a virus, a very small bug that is going to do as much damage as the Black Plague.
Fair enough. I agree.
So
I don't think there's any doubt that that's going to happen.
and if it's not
this one, it may be the next one.
That's right. And if it's not a bug, it might be a big old rock that's got our name on it, hurling through outer space, heading right for this planet. It's one or the other. But
I think it'll be the virus.
you think so?
Yeah. But the lesson to be learned there is what is mankind's reaction to the virus. You know, there are those that just walk around as though it doesn't exist. They don't want to acknowledge it.
Isn't that incredible?
There are those that have apocalyptic visions that this is the end and that are accepting it. There are those out there that, as a man of science myself, understand viruses and pandemics and science that is used to battle against it. But you know what I find fascinating, if I wasn't involved, is the egos and the political nonsense that's involved in battling this virus. I would have hoped that people would have come together in a better way and allowed men of science to battle and to do what they can to eradicate the virus instead of the political machinations getting in the way.
Agreed.
Oh, yes. It's incredible that so many people out there still think this is some hoax. Those people are stupid, in my opinion. And I hope they get the virus now.
Let's move back to Knights Templar.
Yes, sir. I agree. But yes, speaking of which, have you ever been approached by any member of a secret society to help you obtain the treasure?
To help me obtain the treasure? No.
Help them obtain the treasure, rather.
Yes. Of them obtaining the treasure, yes.
Do you mind?
And I won't identify the various groups, but I can tell you that I've said no to all of them, because you know what? If that's what they're after, then they failed to learn the main lesson of the story. If it's physical treasure that they're after, then you may be stuck on Oak Island for another 100 years.
Well, the greed of man never surprises me, William.
Hmm. Well, you know what? It's also, and the reasoning behind that, if you watch the show, as I say, I find the show very entertaining because they always want to bring everything back to the original medieval Knights Templar, because supposedly there exists this Templar treasure that far outlistens any treasure that's ever been found to date. If you're thinking about that, you've lost already.
I'm with you on that
What's
one.
the What's the name of the show you guys are talking about again?
Oak
Oh,
Island.
The Curse of Oak Island.
Yeah, the Curse of Oak Island.
What is that on HBO or something?
No, I think isn't that the Discovery Channel or the
No,
History
it's usually
Channel?
the History Channel.
Yeah, the History Channel. Speaking of the History Channel, that has been rather bizarre over the last 10 years, rather. Some of the programming on the History Channel has kind of been sketchy.
Unfortunately, they've fallen into the entertainment.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
get it.
They find that they have to sensationalize things in order for it to be entertaining. And my suggestion is that if they stuck to the known or hidden history,
Yeah.
it would just be as entertaining or more.
Yeah,
More
don't
people
they
would be fascinated.
don't they have shows like Ice Truckers and
Ancient Aliens,
Swamp Hunters and things like that? It's kind of silly. I mean, History Channel, I used to watch. That's all I used to watch.
Used
Was
to be
History
good.
and Discovery Channel. That's it.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Get back to the Knights Templar, guys, before we get sued.
I know. Before we get that's right. Before we have a lawsuit in our hands.
It'll come after you. So
I know they definitely will. Yeah, I already rubbed people the wrong way over there on that network plenty of times. Actually, I've actually had dinner with someone out there. I won't mention any names, but the listeners know exactly.
I've been approached to go on the show, and I've actually offered to go on the show as the Supreme Grand Master of Sovereign Great Priory Canada.
Oh shit!
And to demonstrate to them on a higher level a number of things that they should be looking at. But I don't think they declined. I think they feel that they have the winning formula now, and that they want to continue it.
Yeah, they got those ratings up there for sure.
Yeah, it's the number one cable TV show on TV at this point in time. So a lot of people follow it, and a lot of people subscribe to it.
When they've had shows about the Templars on, I've certainly been interested in that.
And that's why they relate everything to Templar. As soon as they relate something to Knights Templar, you know your ears perk up, and that you'll program it, and that you want to watch it. There's something about the medieval Knights Templar and this fascination of what they could have discovered.
And I'm sure you've noticed how many specials, and I'm not talking about just on History Channel, but so many other, Netflix and all these other cable channels that might be on. There's so many different shows on now that talk about the history of the Knights Templars and all that. So yeah, a lot of it's popped up in the last, I guess, 10 years or so, if not longer. And it's a fascination.
And just to get back to the Da Vinci Code,
Word.
The whole fascination with that is there's something about the Knights Templar, this whole monk warrior persona. On one side they were spiritual, on the other side they were ruthless. On one side they fought for the day, on the other side they planned 7 generations from that day. So there's it amazes me. Some people think they're almost supermen. They were just very convicted, very spiritual men who obviously had reached a higher level of understanding and wisdom. And they could be absolutely ruthless, but the strategic maneuvers they employed were thousands of years ahead of themselves. They possessed at one time the greatest maritime fleet in the world. So what is what is to prevent the notion that they were able to sail away with the Templar treasure from La Rochelle on Friday the 13th, 1307, and possibly distribute some of that treasure across North America, as those who sailed before them, the ancient mariners, had done for thousands of years. Many people think that the world's history is just like 3,000, 4,000 years. If you subscribe to the native understanding, you realize that it's 6 billion years old.
But you say the Templars were ruthless. I mean, they had to be. I mean, at that time in the world, I mean, it was barbaric. Not that we're any different these days, but back then it was a lot less lawless. And they were fighting, what was it, the Muslim Turks, I believe.
Yes, the Saracens.
Right.
Right. So, and they were just as ruthless, and they were fighting for their god. So, it's quite amazing what man will do for the belief of God.
No, absolutely. But if you know the Templar history, there is the notion that the Templars realized that they couldn't defeat the Muslims, so they actually made secret pacts with them. And there's a lesson again to be learned there 1,000 years ago, 1,000 years later. Why can't we all live together?
Wolf.
Amen to that.
Well, wolf is man. Man is wolf to man, in my opinion.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
And not only that, but what you just said about them making the deals with the Arabs and the Muslims. I mean, that's where we got a lot of. We got algebra. We got
astronomy.
Right.
Astronomy. Thank you. And there were several other things. I know that medicine. So there were a lot of things. And then again, the Templars also created our banking, as we know it today. They
right.
helped create the banking methods that we have today.
That's right. But the bottom line is that they had a conviction. They had a conviction. Now, was that conviction proven to them by actual physical relics and artifacts? Genealogical records? Maybe. Was that conviction achieved through, as I say, a spiritual awareness, moving to a higher level?
I don't know. I can't answer that.
Well, that's always a good answer, too. Fair answer. And, of course, going back to Albert Pike here really quickly, I was curious what your opinion was on the received vision that he described in a letter back in 1871 about outlining the plans for 3 world wars to bring about one world order.
Again, I think that was something developed by the church in order to put him in an awkward position. The funniest thing is he's talked about the Second World War and the Third World War. He was describing the Nazis as like Nostradamus. Everybody thinks that the interpretations of his prophecies, even though maybe 6 or 7 out of 1,000 have come to light there.
Interesting.
My apologies for the static noise. I don't know if it's coming from you, Mike, or myself.
Oh, I think it's from our friend Mike here.
I really don't know. Michael, do you want me to sign off and come back and check it out?
No, it's fine.
Okay,
No
because
worries.
I don't know. I tried muting the microphone, but I'm not sure what's up.
It happens.
Okay.
There's always some technical glitch somewhere down the line. That happens. But it's all good.
My apologies, folks.
No worries. I don't think anyone can even hear it, to be honest with you.
No, I can hear it because I have headphones on. But
oh, you could hear it too.
Yeah,
I can't. I can't hear anything. I got headphones on too, and I don't hear anything. So
we were very clear for the longest time. Mind you, there looks like a storm coming through where I am here. Who knows?
Yeah, it's all
Could be
good.
the Russians.
It could
Could
be
be
the
the
Russians.
Russians.
The
Yes.
Russians.
The listeners out there can't hear it,
Listening.
so it's all good. Don't worry.
All right,
Okay.
good. Thank you.
Yeah, we're good. Don't worry, guys. All good here. And on a just random side note here, William, when you're not reading into all these things and you're not writing a book or anything, what exactly do you do for some downtime, for your enjoyment, for your pleasure, my friend? What is it that William does?
Actually, I'm an artist.
Oh,
I
okay.
do watercolor and acrylic painting,
Nice.
and I've gotten into the. I've always done that. I've gotten into that very much full time, and are trying to. One thing about being self-isolated, I have a lot of time to paint. So I'm looking to do a number of paintings here, trying to get a major exhibit up and running when the coronavirus goes by.
You sound like Mike now. Mike is also a painter, a very talented one at that. Mike, you actually,
Well, thank you.
that's something we haven't even talked about here on the program, that you are actually a pretty damn talented painter, artist yourself.
Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. I try to consider myself a Renaissance man, having done music, having done artwork, having written books, and a performer. So yeah, I've kind of and a photographer too. So I've kind of hit every avenue in the artistic field. But yeah, as a matter of fact, I also am working on a big painting right now. 24 by I think 18 canvas, linen canvas. So yeah, I work in acrylic, watercolor, sometimes oil. I'm not that good at oil, but I have done paintings in oil. I do a little bit of sculpting. Probably my best is pencil. I like using graphite sticks. I've been doing an art since I was 13 years old. That's when I discovered my talent.
Very nice.
What you said you work in oils? Is that what you said?
No, I
Grandmaster?
work in acrylics
In acrylics, and you've been an artist all your life?
all my life. Yep.
Wonderful. Just paintings?
Well, I'm obviously an author, but just paintings. I always find I had a great art teacher in high school that started me off. He always said that if you can't do a painting in 2 hours, it's not worth doing. So
Grandmaster, do you know how long it takes me to do a large painting?
oh, it takes me a long time now too. It could take me weeks.
It takes me months to
Yeah.
complete a piece because I work in such small detail, and I create as I go along most of the time. So as I'm sitting there looking at it for like 30 minutes, 25 minutes, that's part of the creation for me. Is figuring out what I see on that canvas that I can paint and add to it. The same with when I draw. So yeah, but I know what you're saying about doing a painting in less than or about 2 hours. That is a goal that I have been trying to achieve for a very long time. I've cranked a few out in watercolor or maybe even a drawing, but when I do a big painting, I do it detailed. So I'm using little tiny brushes and the tiniest little, creases on a face or whatever it might be, shadows. So I can't do a painting in 2 hours.
You gotta get some.
I do a lot of I do work in pretty well any genre. But I do a lot of paintings where I try to explore that higher level of spirituality, and I do a lot of native infused paintings that there's symbology, color, representation, numerology, all of those things.
You go deep.
Mysterious.
Yes, my wife, we've been married 38 years. She's still saying she doesn't know who she married.
I love
maybe
that.
maybe that's a good thing.
And by
You
the way,
have to ask yourself that when you're married to a Grandmaster Templar.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. When we got married, you have to appreciate I had no I had an inkling, but aside from that, I had no idea the involvement of the Mann family
Mm.
in Freemasonry and Knights Templarism.
And
Right.
and by the way, is the wife is good? You guys are both in good health. No COVID-19 in your life, correct?
No, and the family's good,
Thank
and
God.
my extended family, my sisters and their husbands and children, everybody's good as long as you practice what essentially the people of science tell you to do. You're probably better off than trying to ignore it.
I agree with you on that one. And another question I have really quickly here: the last refuge of the Knights Templar. What can listeners out there take away from this book, in your opinion?
I'm hoping. Well, that's an interesting question. I'm hoping they understand that there's a lot of things in life that are not obvious. There's your daily routine, but then there's always, you know, you should think for yourself. You shouldn't listen to other tenants. You shouldn't uh, b- follow blind faith of the church. Think for yourself and try to reason the spirituality of not only our history but the present day. And from that, I think they'll take a great moral, that something that you can live by, that I've lived by for my entire life.
Yeah, that was.
There's
Mhm.
a balance, a balance. You're looking for a balance in life.
I was just going to add on to that. So, being in the Knights Templar, that's what you have taken away from your experience, correct? I
Absolutely.
see.
You
Okay.
know, there's a saying that you can take as little as you want or as much as you want. And if you take as little as you want, that's enough. For some people that may be enough. To me, I'm a lifelong learner, and I'm always seeking the truth.
I love that.
Me
That's what
too.
we do here on this program. We try
Good.
to achieve the truth and cut the bullshit right away.
The
Well,
only
I
thing I
hope,
want.
hopefully, sorry, Mike.
That's
Hopefully, I
okay.
presented a few things for you to think about tonight.
You really did. You
No
have
doubt.
my mind racing for sure, and I really want to go back and read the entire book. I haven't read it all, but I definitely will read the whole thing. And I would have to send you a copy of the book, Mike. I might even have to buy you a copy because I don't want to send this book
Oh.
to you.
Either way, I'm sure we'll work something out. It's all good. I'm
Well,
looking forward to reading it.
if you're stuck in the house, you should order it.
I'm gonna get it one way or another. I swear to you.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
very, very fantastic book for those out there. The name of the book is The Last Refuge of the Knights Templar, The Ultimate Secret of the Pike Letters. And it goes deep, boys and girls. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here that I wanted to bring up to you, but I don't want to give it all away to the listeners, unfortunately, because it's so damn good, my friend. I have to be honest with you. I couldn't even stop reading it.
There's almost every subject on the Templars is just fascinating. It's always deep.
Oh, yes. And before I cut you loose here, William, I do want to leave you with the final word. Anything you'd like to say before you part here with us? The floor is yours. Go ahead and plug anything you'd like as well, my friend.
Well, I want to thank you for having me on. I think between you, Michael, and Mike, uh, I always like to have a discussion with people in terms of that are open-minded and that want to learn. And I think that's in part the reason I came on your show. But also, if people are more interested in my books, they can go to my website, www.templars New World, all one word, Templars with an S, newworld.com. And if they want the books, they can reach out to Amazon chapters, online ordering, or order directly through the publisher, innertraditions.com, out of Vermont, who are great publishers of alternative
Yes.
history and hidden history. And I've enjoyed working with them on all of my books, and they're fantastic people.
Yeah, they really
That's
are.
great.
I really like them a lot. they're always there for me if I need them. Gotta respect that.
They are terrific people. They really are, and they're I don't know. There must be something in the water in Vermont
No doubt.
versus California or wherever.
Are
Sure.
there any other books or any other things you want to promote for yourself, Grandmaster?
Well, there's the 3 books that I wrote that are nonfiction. The first one's called The Knights Templar in the New World, Mike, and that talks about the movement of the Knights Templar from the 12th century in the North America and the strategic alliances that they developed with the Native Americans. Then there's Templar Meridians, which is a following of the Knights Templar across North America. And then the third one, Templar Sanctuaries in North America, which talks about the pre-Columbian settlements, Knights Templar settlements in North America. There's a lot of hidden history out there that you should be aware of.
And that last one was Templar Sanctuaries, plural?
Sanctuaries in North America.
Sanctuaries in North America. Okay. I'm writing them all down.
Very nice. Well, thank you so much, William, for being a part of the program. It was an honor and pleasure to speak to you and have this open discussion with you. I think we ended up just having much more questions from the answers that we received from you tonight. I mean, my goodness. Holy hell.
Absolute honor to speak with you, Grandmaster William. It really is fascinating, and you've really captured my attention, at least tonight, as well as Michael's, I would imagine.
We'll have to do this again.
You're welcome, gentlemen.
Yeah, we'll do this again, my friend.
Take care.
Please come back. Take care.
Take care.
Bye now.
Good night. And there he goes. That was William.
Grandmaster William.
Grandmaster William. Yes, forgive me there. Grandmaster
William Mann.
Grandmaster William F. Mann, by the way. If you search William Mann, you're probably not going to find him. So William F. Mann. And that's Mann with 2 N's, not 1, for those that are curious. And my God, Mike, what did you make of that?
Wow. I got to tell you, that was really a highlight of my month. As I mentioned earlier, my fascination with the Templars and the Priory of Sion.
Right, the tongue twister.
Has always it's been a fascination of mine for at least it's got to be 2-3 decades now, close to it. Very
nice. Now, Mike, what else is going on with you out there? You staying coronavirus free too?
Yes. Honestly speaking, and all kidding aside, where I live, I'm in a pretty rural area, Michael. So I got to be honest, I'm not so worried about the virus itself. I'm more worried about the repercussions that this is going to have on everything economically, and myself included. I'm currently dealing with some serious financial issues concerning this shutdown of the country. So
it's hurt everyone. That's true. A lot of people out there in the same boat as you and me.
How about you? Out by you, what's going on over there? Is it a madhouse?
Well, not exactly. We don't have that many cases out here. I think we only have about 4 to 5.
Okay.
And most of the people that were infected, they were outside of the county and probably outside of the state, perhaps. But there was only maybe 2 or 3 that had caught it here locally, though. So it's pretty low.
It's interesting how it's just everywhere you turn, everyone is talking about it, not only in person or on the phone or by email or text message, but in all social media, on the television, on the radio. It's everywhere. Everybody is.
That's all everyone's focused on, and it's true. And by the way,
everyone's focused on it. You're exactly right.
I spoke too soon. We have 9 cases officially now.
9, okay.
I mean, that's still kind of low compared to everyone else, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. According to the CDC, I believe there is as of yesterday, there were 544 or 43 deaths in the country, but there's something like 20 or 30,000 affected. I could be wrong on that number as well. That was yesterday.
Yeah, I'm sure the numbers are even higher now.
It's possible, yeah.
It's possible that I maybe even have been exposed to the virus. I mean, I was pretty fucked up for about 3 days.
Why, you were sick?
I was sick for about 3 days. I felt like shit. I think I might have caught the virus at one time, and I kicked the shit out of the virus because the virus entered my body and said, "What the fuck is going on here? I can't handle this shit."
This is some toxic dump.
They said, "Fuck this! I'm out of this guy's body. This guy lives like a fucking savage. Fuck this shit! I can't even stay here."
I'm out of here. I'm going to go hang out with Ebola.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the virus left me right away. It didn't want no part of this shit.
Probably died.
I probably killed the virus. My blood is probably the cure for the virus.
We need to send all viruses to you so you can kill them.
I know. I mean, I need to go out there and just drain blood everywhere on everyone. Like the soldiers that were out there training the Cobra Squad or whatever the fuck it's called in Thailand, where they're drinking snake blood and all that shit. Maybe I just need to slit my wrist and let the soldiers drink it.
Are they real? Wait, you're telling me that they're drinking snake's blood to prevent the virus from killing them, or as an antibiotic or something?
No, it was just some training thing they were doing out there. Not long ago. It's to survive in the jungle.
Oh, okay.
I think they
All
probably
right, I
stopped
get it.
doing that shit.
You know, I'm not a big fan of drinking blood these days, but
It used to be, right?
yeah, oh yeah, huge.
That's hilarious. So, Mike, we are almost running out of time here. I mean, we will be
All right,
back
brother.
pretty soon again. I think we might have a show. I think it might be Friday, but we will be back Saturday with Eric Ajewski.
Okay.
So Friday, I'll let you know beforehand, though.
Okay. So yeah, I know we're scheduled for Saturday's interview.
That's right.
And I guess just let me know at the earliest you possibly can, so I can announce it on my fan page, and we'll take it from there. This is a great show tonight, man. I really enjoyed interviewing him.
It was good times, right?
Oh yeah, even the last interview we did with Dr. Paul Cortell.
Paul Cottrell, right?
Cottrell. Even that, I got a lot of compliments on that interview.
It was a good show.
And his, what was her name?
Jennifer
was it Jennifer?
Stein. Yes.
Yes. So yeah, I got a lot of comments. The people saying that they really enjoyed the show on Saturday, and I'm sure I'm going to get some really good positive reviews today on tonight's show as well.
Amazing. Now, Mike, I am going to let you go here, and I'll talk to you very soon, my friend. Any final words,
All right,
however?
brother.
No final words.
Any final words? As usual, if anybody is interested in my artwork or my photography, please go to horribleartwork.com. Horribleartwork.com. And if you're interested in any of my music, please go to Facebook and look up Hideous Mike. And Mike is spelled with a Y, M-Y-K-E. You can also go to my website, MikeHideous.com.
Amazing. Talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, brother. You have a good night, and I'll talk to you soon.
Mahalo. And there he goes, boys and girls. That was Mike Hideous. And I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. It was a good one, in my opinion. And we will be back soon. Don't worry. And of course, if you want to get a hold of me over Twitter, that's at Michael Decon. And don't forget, if you are a fan of the program and have a few dollars laying around, and you want to subscribe to the Patreon and get bonus content, please go to don't go to michaeldecon.com. Go to patreon.com/Michael Decon. And that's where you'll find bonus content. But yes, please go to michaeldecon.com for updates on the program and who's going to be on. I know most of you out there probably don't even go to michaeldecon.com and you just go straight to YouTube or the podcast rendition. But yes, always go to michaeldecon.com for all the latest information. interesting night yet again. I hope you enjoyed it out there, and I hope all of you are safe and coronavirus free. It would be a goddamn shame to lose any of you to this god-awful disease. Remember to stop shaking hands out there and start boosting those immune systems. The biological war is here, boys and girls. Stay safe, everyone, no matter where you are on this island Earth. I'm Michael Decon, and with that said, the world is a mysterious place, and life itself is a mystery. Until next time, good night, everybody.